I met my girl, Diane, at that time. And we started dating and fell in love and started planning on getting married. When this guy, Sable, found out about us, he was writing threatening letters. He was going to cut her fingers off and mail them back to her mother. He had threatened to kill 4 FBI agents and a judge. When I get out, I'm going to kill you, and you. And guess it was about 6 years later, he wound up getting out of federal prison on parole. And the threat started again. He got caught selling 2 kilos of cocaine to an undercover DEA agent down in Georgia. The guy took a plea. He's doing 20 years in federal prison down in Georgia. 2 years later, I'm at a traffic light on Central Avenue in Yonkers where I live, and I look out my peripheral vision, and lo and behold, Richie Sable's there. He's got a cigar in his mouth. He does one of these to me, and he takes off. I got on the job January 21st, 1985. I guess the story with this started when my ex-wife, back in 1979, was dating a criminal by the name of Richard Sable. He was in state prison for armed robbery or attempted armed robbery at that time. And I met my girl, Diane, at that time. And we started dating and fell in love and started planning on getting married. When this guy, Sable, found out about us, he was writing threatening letters. He was going to cut her fingers off and mail them back to her mother. He was going to throw acid on her face to make her so ugly that nobody would want her. He wound up getting arrested again by the FBI, and he got sentenced to 12 years. I went to the sentencing. He didn't know who I was, sitting in the back of the courtroom. And he had threatened to kill 4 FBI agents and a judge. When I get out, I'm going to kill you, and you. Kind of maniac he was. And then life went on. Things were okay. I guess it was about 6 years later, he wound up getting out of federal prison on parole. And the threat started again. And within no time, he dropped off the face of the planet. And I found out that he got caught selling 2 kilos of cocaine to an undercover DEA agent down in Georgia. I notified my job. I notified my sergeant, Larry Worsing, at the time that Sable was in federal prison down in Georgia. And he said that he would look into it. He had an FBI agent friend of his in New Rochelle from when he worked in the FBI. And he would look into it and make sure that, Sable's going to be gone. The FBI called him back and said, tell your officer he has no problems. The guy took a plea. He's doing 20 years in federal prison down in Georgia, and he'll be fine. 2 years later, I'm at a traffic light on Central Avenue in Yonkers where I live, and I look out my peripheral vision, and lo and behold, Richie Sable's there with another guy in a BMW. He's got a cigar in his mouth. He does one of these to me, and he takes off. I give chase. Chased him all over Yonkers as far as I could go. I was in a Chevy Nova. He was in a BMW, so it wasn't too much of a chase. He got left in the dust. I immediately notified the Yonkers police. I notified the NYPD, my job, that he was back out. So they put protection, extra protection. My captain at the time gave me a radio to take home with me, and they put extra protection on my family. And then I guess it was about a week later or so, something in there, I get called in, and my captain wants my gun and shield. And I'm like, why? Well, Sergeant Worsing got in touch with the FBI, and Richie Sable is still in prison in Georgia. He's locked away, and they think that you've lost your mind and that you're obsessing on this man. And I said, I know what I saw, Captain. I said, you know me a long time. I don't make mistakes like this, but they didn't care. They want to cover their ass. They took my gun and my shield. Not too long after that, it was Christmas night, Christmas Eve, and my brother-in-law turns to me and says, you know that piece of crap Sable that you supposedly put away for 20 years? I said, well, I didn't, but the DEA did. Yeah. Well, he's out on the streets. I said, yeah, and he's hanging out with my buddy Jerry Vittorio, who was at my wedding. I said, yeah, and what's the deal? I said, he's supposed to be doing 20 years to life. And they have me seeing the department shrink because he's not out. So if he's out, he either ratted on somebody or he did something because he's working some magic because they're saying he's in. He gets in touch with Jerry, comes to my house, and I tell Jerry face to face. Now this guy's a made member of the Lucchese crime family or associate or whatever. And I just told him, I said, no, you better stay away from him, man, because if he's out, he's supposed to be in federal prison. And if he's out, he either ratted on somebody down there or he cooperated to get out. And that's not the type of guy you want to be around. Well, unbeknownst to me, he's still in contact with Richie Sable, and they're having these illegal things going on. And Jerry had given him $10,000 of mob money to open up a business, and turned out later they were running machine guns with silencers and heroin and so on and so forth. And Jerry said, I don't want to deal with you anymore. I don't trust you. So Richie Sable's like, why don't you trust me? Oh, well, we got an FBI agent in our pocket that told us you're no good. In the meantime, Richie Sable's out, and unbeknownst to all of us, he's working for United States Customs. So you talk about how stupid they are. The federal government, the United States Customs is going to let this guy out of a 20-year sentence. They're not going to check with the DEA, because the DEA would say, don't use him. He's a piece of filth. The FBI would say he threatened to kill 4 FBI agents, and a federal judge, don't use him. But they used him. And now Jerry, the gangster, Lucchese, is telling Sable his name rhymes with Skinny Avis, and all this Machiavellian stuff is going on. In the meantime, the FBI is in an uproar because they think they have a crooked FBI agent out there giving money, giving information to the mob. Well, lo and behold, there was no crooked FBI agent. It was just me, this lonely transit cop who was shooting my mouth off, telling these guys, stay away from him, he's no good. Not because I knew of any criminal investigation, not because I was privy to anything, just because he got sentenced to 20 years and he's out in 2 years. It doesn't take you to be a brain surgeon to figure out that either he ratted on somebody or he's ratting on you. And in any event, I felt it was all right for me to say that because I didn't think I was doing anything wrong. Turns out they felt I did something really wrong. So, and the FBI, tell anyone watching, they will do anything in their power to throw you in prison, anything. I had the power of the PBA attorneys with the city of New York, which is a great job, and the attorneys were standing behind me and they knew that. So, and the New York City Police Department couldn't try me because they had no charges to try me on. I didn't do anything wrong. Until the FBI got the ingenious idea to go to my department trial and say that I gave my gun to Jerry, the gangster, and he in turn shot it out the window of my car 7 times. Now you can imagine my surprise when I'm sitting there listening to this. And I did not go up and take the stand after that at my department trial and testify, because when an FBI agent speaks, everyone genuflects, it's gospel. And I knew I was getting fired and there was nothing I was going to be able to say to help me. Well, it turns out when I get arrested and they take me to Newark to try me and Jerry gets on the stand, he turns around and says, when asked by Tom Cassione, my attorney, he says, so what was this about Vinnie Davis giving you his gun? Oh, well, was it true? I was posturing. So posturing, that means you were lying. Yeah, so you lied about Vinnie Davis. He never gave you his gun. You never shot out the window of his car. No, but you got him fired from the police department for that. So what? I'm here testifying against him now so I can get out of prison. So what? So I wound up doing 16 months, being found guilty, doing 16 months in federal prison for a crime I knew I didn't commit, even though they said, if you take a plea, you won't do any time. I wasn't going to take a plea. I didn't do anything. 16 months later, the Third Circuit Court of Appeals had heard my case, and they ordered me immediately released from prison and overturned the convictions. And they threw them out, and they left 2 remaining charges of witness tampering, but in their instructions, because I'll never forget the beginning of the argument, the appeal. It says, this case reads like a Class B melodrama. So right away, it was unbelievable even to the courts. They had to really look hard at it. But they left 2 remaining charges of witness tampering with Richie Sable, who I had never spoken to or met with or threatened. But they also left jury instructions to Judge Lechner that if you try him again, you have to instruct the jury that when he had this conversation, he was intoxicated because he was not drunk. He was bombed. So you can't deny that. So I had another trial. It was 11-1 not guilty. There was one young, fine African-American young man who looked at me and yelled through the glass, "You're a cop, you're guilty, you're going to jail." We got a mistrial with 11-1 because they couldn't get him to change his mind. And then Judge Lechner ordered them to try me again. And the AUSA, at the time, Sierra, said, "That's not the position the government's taken. This is it. We're done." And Judge Lechner screamed from the top of the bench, "You will try him again. If not, you will have the United States Attorney himself sit in front of me and tell me why he's not being tried. I'm putting this on for a short calendar. It's back on and they're going to try him." So lo and behold, they tried me a third time. And by that time, the media had gotten wind of this. It was in the front page of the papers. It was everywhere. Is justice dumb as well as blind? How can they let career criminals that are doing life out to get a cop and put him in jail for obstruction? It's just stupid. And I was found not guilty. I was acquitted of all charges. Then I went to try to get my job back. You think it would be easy? No, it was not easy. They used the fact that it was more than a year that had passed. The statute of limitations for me to get my job back had expired, and therefore I could not be reinstated to the police department, and I could not forfeiture my pension, and everything was gone. So we filed all the way up to the top court in New York, and they agreed. And my lawyer's argument was, it says on the application, if you're a convicted felon, you cannot be a police officer. So why would Vincent Davis try to get his job back? He's sitting in a cell. He's a convicted felon. Is he supposed to write, "Dear Commissioner Safer," in crayon, "When I get released from prison in 4 years, can I have my job back?" And the judge actually said, "Yeah, well, that would have worked. That would have stopped the clock." But he didn't do that. So the clock, we can't make new law. And I'm sorry, we have to rule against him. So I lost everything. I hadn't heard anything until I guess it was around 2005. When I got a phone call from a police detective in, I think it was Tampa, St. Pete. And I answered my phone and he said, "Is this Detective Davis from the New York City Police Department?" And I was kind of thrown back a second. And I was like, "Who's speaking?" And he said, "This is Detective so-and-so from Tampa, St. Pete." And I said, "Okay." I said, "You're a detective calling from Florida." I said, "Let me guess, this is Richie Sable?" He said, "Yep." He told us what happened to you. I looked up your story and I can understand if you don't want to talk to us. And I said, "Talk to you." I said, "We're still brothers. I'm still a cop. I'll be a cop till the day I die. I'll still think like a cop. I'll still act like a cop. So if there's any way I can help you, I'd be more than willing to help you." And he said, "Well, we locked him up on extortion charges and several other serious felonies." And he said, "You better go check with Vinny Davis because what happened to him is going to happen to you. So we thought we'd give you a call." And I said, "Well, the only thing I can tell you for sure is like holding on to him is like trying to hold on to a jellyfish or sand in your hand. He's eventually just going to slip through." And they were adamant. They said, "No, this is Florida. It's a whole different world down here. It's not New York." And I said, "I don't care where it is. He is going to walk. Someone's going to come in. Someone's going to say he's going to convince somebody to use him as a rat, and they're going to go pull him out and use him." And he said, "It's not happening. This guy's been, his rap sheet is way too long. He's going to go away for a long time." And I said, "Do me a favor, cop to cop. When he walks out of there, give me a jingle. I'd like to know." It wasn't long. 4 or 5 months later, I got a phone call. He goes, "I can't believe it. You were absolutely right." We showed up and he was gone. Nobody knows where he went. Nobody knows what happened to him. I said, "Now I can tell you. Don't even bother. Don't lose any sleep over it. He's somebody else's problem. Unless he comes looking for you. And if he threatened to do that, make sure you cover yourself every which way but Sunday. Because if he comes looking for you, he's going to kill you." I heard that he was trying to do a book because somebody called me that there was someone online, an author was talking on a radio show. And I called up the radio show, and then I managed to get in touch with the guy who was the author, who was going to be the author. And when I told him who I was, he said, "Really? You're calling me?" And I said, "Yeah." "Why?" I said, "Well, I wanted to let you know that this whole story, I copyrighted from prison with a pencil in 1999. So whatever Sable's shoveling at you, if it's going to be this story, just realize it's copyrighted and I'm going to come after you." And he said to me, "Thank God." He goes, "I would use any excuse not to deal with this guy anymore. He threatened to kill me like 3 times already because the book isn't done fast enough. But now that I know it's copyrighted and the story is copyrighted and it's yours and they're going to make a movie out of it, I'm walking away from this guy." And that was the last I heard. When I was on Dateline with John Hockenberry and Stone Phillips and Inside Edition and all these other shows, each Discovery Channel, I had a movie deal with Paramount Pictures. They signed the option, and when I signed that option and I got paid, they locked the book in with the movie. So I couldn't go and publish or go to another publisher. They were going to do it when the movie was coming out. They were going to time it through Simon Schuster, I believe, and it was going to get released. And then their option expired, and I went on to another one and signed another one and then a different one. And it's been all these years. And finally now, my last option expired about 1.5 years ago. And I said, "I'm not signing another option. I want to go and get this book out." It's been 20 years. I said, "I got to get the book out. And I'm sure that you guys are afraid if the book comes out, there's going to be publicity and someone else is going to come to the table with the movie, but that's no longer my concern. I need this book to get published." And I sent it out to a few publishing companies, and I got back to it. "Can we see more? Can we see more?" And I was like, "You gotta be kidding me." But from everyone that's read it so far and the feedback I've got, it's riveting. It's just, I can't put it down. I have to see what's going to happen next. And the ending, you're going to say, "Okay, what happens now?"